Come.
Mr. Markham.
Oh, come in, Miss Henderson. What is it?
Mr. Markham, they're here again in the outer office. Irma and Sarah Wakefield.
Oh, no.
Yes, sir. And they insist on seeing the district attorney. They say it's very important.
All right, Miss Henderson. Ask them to come in.
Yes, sir. Would you come in, please?
Yes, of course. Of course we'll come in, miss. Thank you. Go right in, Sarah.
Indeed I will. Indeed I will.
Please sit down, ladies.
Indeed we will. Indeed we will.
Mr. Markham, we've done it again. Sarah and I have done it again.
Have you?
Yes?
And what is it you've done this time?
Listen to him, Irma. What have we done this time? Young man, don't you read the papers?
Yes, I believe I do.
Well, didn't you read this morning of the gangster Eddie Rogers who was shot and killed last night?
Didn't you read that, young man?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I did. The police have arrested the killer.
Did you hear that, Irma? The police have arrested the killer.
How could they have arrested the killer, Mr. Markham, when Sarah and I killed that gangster? Didn't we, Sarah?
Indeed we did. Indeed we did.
I just had to call you up and tell you about it, Vance. The two old girls were so serious about thinking they murdered Eddie Rogers, I had a hard time convincing them that they didn't.
I'm not sure I understand about them, Markham.
It's simply this. They're both spinsters, have no family we know about, and they sit at home and worry about all the evil men in the world. Then they pick out some public enemy and concentrate on his death. In the event that a gang bullet ends that gangster's career, they come in to confess.
And they've done it twice before, is that it?
Yes, they're perfectly serious, Vance. They apologize for the potency of their concentration and insist they're quite willing to accept the consequences.
Apparently, a district attorney meets almost as many eccentric characters as a private investigator. Well, Markham, what about dinner tonight? Busy?
No, why don't you call me later?
I will. Bye.
Bye.
You and the DA are pretty friendly, aren't you, Vance?
Who are you? How did you get into my office?
The name's Sterling, Joe Sterling, and I walked in. Any more questions?
What do you want? And why didn't you knock?
You don't seem to understand, Vance. I said I was Joe Sterling. I don't knock on doors. When I want to get in somewhere, I walk in.
How'd you like to get thrown out?
Now, wait a minute, Vance. Take it easy. I'm not looking for any trouble. Besides, you don't throw clients out of your office, do you?
You're not my client.
I'm just about to be. Vance, I run the 19th Ward. I'm what the papers call a political leader.
Well?
I control a lot of votes, and I'm pretty important in my territory.
I still say, well?
I want to hire you to shadow somebody.
Who?
There are a lot of people I have an interest in, Vance. A lot of people who have an interest in me, good and bad. Fellows like my political opponent, Frank Allen, for instance. The man I want you to shadow happens to be the most important interest I have. I want you to shadow me.
Let me see now. In the 5th Ward, we're a cinch. We figure to cop the 6th, and we'll hold our own in the 7th.
That doesn't sound too bad. If you do your part in the other districts, I'm liable to be elected at that.
Well, that's just the point. Joe Sterling controls the other districts, and I mean controls. People in those districts would vote for a cow if he was in back of the cow. That's no good, Edgar.
Not the way it stands, I'll grant you that, but we can do something about Sterling, can't we?
Any suggestions?
Oh, I'm not supposed to think. I'm just the candidate for office, Frank. You're the one with the brains, so I've been told.
Don't get sarcastic, kid. Look, you've got everything in your favor. Public sentiment, for one thing. The orphan boy who studied at night and worked 18 hours every day to get through law school. You're young, good-looking. But that's not enough.
And so you keep telling me you're my campaign manager. Don't you have anything to suggest so we can lick Joe Sterling and win his district?
The only thing I can tell you is his people will vote the way he wants them to as long as he's alive.
Well, why can't something be done about that?
Is there anything interesting in the newspapers, Sarah?
Indeed there is, Irma. Everybody's writing about the election.
Yes, of course, the election. How does it look? Does the paper say?
Indeed it does, yes. Indeed it does. It says the candidate being presented by Mr. Joe Sterling seems to have the election in... The paper says, in the bag.
That isn't good, is it?
No.
This Mr. Joe Sterling is a very evil man.
Indeed he is. Indeed he is.
Don't you think we ought to do something about him?
I'll gladly do anything. What did you have in mind?
Don't you think you and I ought to concentrate on his dying?
The way we did about that gangster, Eddie Rogers, and the other bad men?
Yes. Don't you think we ought to do the same about Mr. Joe Sterling?
Indeed I do, Irma. Indeed I do. And at once.
No, I don't think so. No, I'm going down to check my districts. I'll keep in touch with you here at the office.
Very good, Mr. Sterling.
Now, the opposition may have something cooking. You keep your ear to the ground, see that I'm kept posted, Danny.
Yes, sir.
I'll call you in an hour.
You better leave this door open so you can see your way down the stairs, Mr. Sterling. The light in the hall is out.
Good enough. Now, don't leave until I call here. Hey, you're right.
About what, sir?
About it being dark. Just make out the stairs. Seems to me
What?
there's somebody at the bottom of these stairs on the street. Danny, come here a moment.
Mr. Sterling! Sterling!
Philo Vance speaking.
Markham Vance. We've got a murder.
Well, that shouldn't be hard for you to solve. The Wakefield sisters ought to be in to confess the crime as soon as they read about it in the papers.
Please, Vance, this is serious. The dead man was rather important politically. He was Joe Sterling.
Oh. Well, Markham, he thought he was going to be killed. And he thought he knew who was going to kill him.
Who was that?
Frank Allen.
Oh, campaign manager for Edgar Lessing, eh?
Yes.
Allen and Sterling were pretty bitter rivals. After what you've told me, I think I'd better have Sergeant Heath pick him up.
I wish you'd wait an hour or so, Markham. I want to see him first.
All right, we'll wait an hour.
Good. What were the circumstances of the murder?
Well, Sterling was found at the bottom of the steps leading to the street from his office. He'd been shot, presumably as he was about to go out the street door.
Mm-hmm.
The only witness, and he isn't a witness exactly, was Danny Moore, who worked for Sterling.
What about him?
Well, he was in Sterling's office when he heard the shots. We're holding him incommunicado. I don't want any newspapermen to get to him before we question him thoroughly.
But the papers do have the story.
Yes, headquarters reporters arrived with the homicide police. There'll be an addition on the street very soon carrying all the details we know.
I see. All right, Markham, thanks for calling and telling me about it. I'm going to see Frank Allen right now. He's a campaign manager. I guarantee I'll find out if he elected Joe Sterling dead.
If you want to come with me to see that nice Mr. Markham, Sarah, please hurry.
Indeed I do want to come with you, Irma. Indeed I do. But I'll only be a moment finishing this collar I'm crocheting. Pretty, isn't it? Look.
You're very handy, Sarah. Very handy.
Thank you, Irma. And I do want to come with you, so just wait 1 minute and we'll go down to Mr. Markham's office and tell him that we killed Mr. Joe Sterling.
I'll wait for you. Are you going to wear your new collar?
Indeed I am. Indeed I am. I don't want Mr. Markham to see me in this same old dress without something new on.
Look, leave me alone, Edgar. I gotta think.
All right, Frank. There doesn't seem to be anything to think about.
Oh, you belong in politics, all right. You don't know from nothing. How do we know how the public's going to take Joe Sterling's death?
Isn't it a little late for you to be thinking about that?
Wait a minute, you little dope. You're not trying to say...
Get your hands off me. Take them off.
Oh, keep that mouth of yours shut, then. Remember this. Remember it now, and remember it when you're elected, if you're elected. You don't do any talking, you don't do any thinking, you just follow orders. You understand that?
I know what you're trying to say, if that's what you mean.
That's what I mean. So with Joe Sterling out of the way, I think you're a cinch. But you just go through the motions when you get elected. I'll do the thinking. You think you're smart enough to remember that?
Yes.
Now that you're smart enough to remember that, see if you're smart enough to forget about how important Joe Sterling's removal is to us. Or what I want...
Who could that be?
What do I know? Go and see.
Supposing it's the police.
Supposing you had a head on your shoulders. Or is that supposing too much? Never mind. You stay here. I'll go to the door. Stupid characters I get hooked up with. Why don't I turn honest and learn to steal? Yes?
Hello. My name is Vance. Philo Vance. Thanks for asking me in.
Oh, so you're Vance, huh? I've often wondered what you looked like.
And now you know. Aren't you lucky?
What do you want here, Vance?
I want to see Frank Allen.
Well, you've seen him. That's me. Aren't you lucky?
Who's the other individual? Oh, wait a minute. I recognize him from those campaign posters all over the city. He's Edgar Lessing, isn't he?
I'm very pleased to meet you, Mr. Vance.
Look, Edgar, you don't have to shake hands with everybody, just the people I tell you to. Now go on back over there and sit down.
When you throw him a bone, does he bark?
Okay, Vance, what's up? What are you doing here?
I came to find out one little fact, Allen.
What's that?
I want to know whether you killed Joe Sterling.
Is that all you want to know?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Vance, why, you didn't have to come all the way over here for that. You could have phoned. I'd have been delighted to confess to you over the phone.
Cute, aren't you, Allen?
That isn't what my mirror tells me.
Well, listen to what I tell you. I tell you that Joe Sterling believed you'd try to kill him. And I tell you something else. I tell you that if you did, I'll find a way of proving it.
Look, Vance, I don't stand inside a doorway and shoot guys as they're about to walk out in the street.
What is your type of murder?
I better teach you a lesson. I just better. That's all. A lesson like this.
Is that all you have to teach me? You'd better learn something yourself. Oh. Come on, get up. You're not hurt too badly. Get up, Allen.
Okay. Okay, big man. Now what?
Now I repeat what I told you before. That if you killed Sterling, I'll find a way of proving it.
And if you do, they'll pin a rose on you, won't they, Vance? Well, I got news for you. If you try, you aren't going to get a rose. You're going to get a whole bouquet. Laid right on your chest.
This is District Attorney Markham. The Sterling murder case opened with the finding of the body of Joe Sterling, political boss. Vance's principal suspect is Frank Allen, who is sponsoring a candidate in opposition to Sterling's. We have no clues to the murder as yet, but we'll have a confession in a moment. A confession from two old ladies, the Wakefield sisters, who feel it their duty to confess to every major crime that's been committed in this city in the last 3 months. They're in my office now, and I've got to listen.
So you see, Mr. Markham, we're quite ready to be sent up the river. Indeed we are, aren't we, Irma?
Such a vulgar expression. We're ready to pay the penalty for killing Mr. Sterling, Mr. Markham. That's what Sarah means.
So I gathered. Well, ladies, I appreciate what you're doing, but, let me ask you a question.
By all means.
You wouldn't consciously try to make my job more difficult, would you?
Why, Mr. Markham?
That's what I thought. You see, I have a lot of problems concerned with Mr. Sterling's murder, and only one of them is finding the murderer.
I don't think I understand.
Legal technicalities. Habeas corpus, ipso facto, e pluribus unum. Very involved legal procedure. Do you understand?
Oh, indeed we do.
Good.
My sister and I didn't mean to bother you. We just wanted you to know that we wished Mr. Sterling dead, and poof, he was dead.
Yes, poof. He was dead.
Poof, he was dead. Well, thank you very much. And now, ladies, if you'll excuse me, I have a lot of work to do.
Of course, ipso facto and all, isn't it?
Yes. You understand, don't you?
Indeed we do, indeed we do. Come, Irma.
Goodbye, Mr. Markham. You'll let us know when you want us, won't you?
Indeed I will, indeed I... I mean, of course. Good day, ladies.
Good day.
Good day.
You know, Irma, I don't think Mr. Markham can be bothered with confessed murderers today.
Okay, Edgar, now look. In a few minutes, we'll have this truck right in the middle of our district. There'll be a big crowd there. I've had a couple of singers entertaining them for an hour.
And I'm going to make a speech over the loudspeaker. Okay, Frank, I know. And I know the speech I'm going to make. I'll have them in the palm of my hand.
You better. There's just a slight chance they'll resent Joe Sterling's death. You know, this was his district, too, you know.
How well I know. If it weren't, and if you could control it instead of him, he'd be alive today.
Look, I don't want to hear talk like that, especially from you. You're running for office because I put you up. I'll break you in a minute if you get out of line. Don't ever forget that.
All right, all right. Hey, is that the mom I got to talk to?
What's the matter? You scared?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Well, be sure. Be sure you're not. All right, go on. Now tell them something and make it good.
Well, doesn't somebody introduce me? You tell them who I am?
They've seen your campaign pictures, haven't they? Who could miss that cute mustache, that blonde wavy hair? They'll know you, all right.
Maybe you'd better introduce me, just to make sure.
All right. Give me the microphone.
Okay, here. I'm ready whenever you are.
My friends, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you the man whom you're going to choose to represent you because he does represent you. The man who came up the hard way, who struggled just as you struggled, so that he knows each and every one of your problems. The man you're going to elect to office, Edgar Lessing.
Go ahead, Edgar. It's all yours.
Friends, I'm not going to stand up here and make a long speech. I'm not going to do what most candidates for office do when they're campaigning. I'm not going to make you a lot of promises. My purpose in coming to talk to you today is simply this. You, every one of you, have a right to representation. And I have only this to tell you, that if I'm elected, you're going to get it.
Sure, like Joe Sterling got it.
Just a moment, please. Just a moment.
You wait, Lessing. Joe Sterling was our friend. We don't like what happened to him. We don't like what's going on here. We don't like you. Let's get this guy out of here. What do you say, man?
We better get out of here. Johnny, get that motor going.
Hurry up, can't you, Johnny? We'll be mobbed.
Come on. Okay, we'll be all right now. Maybe this wasn't such a good idea as I thought.
Maybe killing Joe Sterling wasn't such a good idea as you thought either.
Would you care for another cup of tea, Sarah?
Now, let me think. I just don't know.
You don't mind if I have another cup?
Indeed I don't, Irma. Indeed I don't. He should be here almost any time now, don't you think, Irma?
You mean Mr. Vance?
Yes.
Yes. When he phoned, he said he'd be here at 4 o'clock, and it's almost that now. He's a nice man. I like him.
He's wonderful. He's the kind of a man I should have married.
No sense getting that particular at our age, Sarah. I think...
Oh, that must be Mr. Vance. I'll go.
Oh, no, I'll answer the door.
Irma, please. I'm the younger sister. I'll go.
I'll go fix some more tea in case Mr. Vance would like some.
That will be nice.
Good afternoon, Miss Wakefield.
Yes, indeed it is. Indeed it is. Come in, Mr. Vance, please.
Thank you. Where's your sister?
Oh, she's in the kitchen. She thought you might like some tea.
Oh, she shouldn't have bothered. This is a wonderfully homey room.
Well, we tried to make it that, Mr. Vance. Irma and I don't have much else. You're sure you wouldn't care for some tea?
Positive. Who's that gentleman whose picture's on the wall?
That's Uncle Martin. He's been dead for 20 years. Mm-hmm. And that's a picture of his son over there on the mantelpiece. That's what you were looking at, wasn't it, Mr. Vance?
Yes. Fine-looking lad. About 15 when this was taken, wasn't he?
I think so.
Miss Wakefield, this is kind of a business visit. I hope you don't mind.
Oh, indeed we do not. What is it you want to know?
Well, now let me see. As I understand it, there have been several murders in this city in recent weeks. you and your sister have confessed to all of them.
That's right. Of course we confessed. We killed all of the men.
Why? And how?
Well, we killed them because they were evil, and we just willed them to death. Irma and I just sat right down and willed them to die, and they did.
You did that to Joe Sterling, too.
Oh, of course. He was a very dishonest man. When we read in the papers how he had hurt other people, we just couldn't stand it. So we sat down and willed him to die. And do you know something? At the very moment when the paper said he was killed, Irma and I were sitting right here. Yet we could see him tumbling to his death.
Is that so?
Yes.
Well, Miss Wakefield, you've answered my questions very nicely. I know you'd told everything you just told me to Mr. Markham previously, but I wanted to hear it.
Oh, are you leaving so soon?
Yes, I'm afraid I must. I'm a little late.
Oh, do you have an appointment with someone, Mr. Vance?
Not exactly, although I am going to see Mr. Markham. I am a little late in solving this case, is what I meant.
Vance, will you tell me what on earth you're doing?
Certainly, my friend, but not at the moment.
That's what I like, information. You come breaking into my office with a campaign poster in one hand and a photograph in the other, and you proceed to make my desk look like an art gallery.
How am I doing with this pencil, Markham?
From all I can see, you're drawing a mustache on that photograph of the young fellow you brought in with you.
Mm-hmm.
Is that your idea of fun, Vance?
It's a lot of other people's, Markham, but not mine. I'm deadly serious. Look at this campaign poster.
I'm looking. Nice-looking young fellow. Big type says, vote for Edgar Lessing.
Describe Mr. Lessing.
Well, nice-looking, wavy blonde hair, little mustache.
Fine. Now, look at the photograph I've been working on.
I saw it when you brought it in. It was a picture of a young fellow about 14, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Let me see it now that you've put a mustache on him and fixed his hair with that pencil.
Here you are. Look.
Uh-huh. What? Well, that's a picture of Edgar Lessing as a boy. The likeness is unmistakable now.
That's what I imagined. The Sterling murder case is practically over, Markham.
Well, it's nice of you to let me know that. Now, who killed Joe Sterling?
I have only one question to ask you, and then I'll tell you.
All right.
Sterling was found dead on the ground floor of his office building. His office was on the second floor. There was no elevator, right?
That's right.
You told me he was shot as he was about to go out into the street. Have you had any reason to revise that theory?
Well, yes, I've had time to question the man who was in Sterling's office. He told me Sterling had been shot at the top of the stairs and fell down them to the ground floor. What does that prove?
What I imagined it would. That you can, without any hesitation, arrest the Wakefield sisters for murder. I think, Miss Sarah, that you could have gotten away with your very clever plan if you hadn't made one mistake.
What mistake did we make, Vance?
I'll get to that in a moment. We know now that Edgar Lessing was your nephew, that you knew you could control him if he were elected, and that he could never be elected as long as Joe Sterling were alive.
So, these two women did kill Sterling. But, Vance, how about the other killings they confessed to?
That was their plan, Markham. They thought this out months ago when they decided to kill Sterling. They came to your office on several previous occasions and admitted murdering several individuals who had been found dead.
Yes.
That was just to throw you off.
It did throw him off, too, didn't it, Sarah?
Indeed it did. Indeed it did. And if it weren't for Mr. Vance, nobody would ever have suspected us of killing Mr. Sterling. We were just two harmless old women who hated anything evil.
Or so you wanted us to think.
What I want to know, Vance, is why you took that young fellow's photograph from the Wakefield's living room in the first place. You must have been suspicious of them to do that.
I was. It was something Miss Wakefield here said to me that gave me the clue. So far as anybody knew, Joe Sterling was killed on the ground floor of his office building. Yet she mentioned that she saw him tumbling down. Tumbling down, Markham.
Oh, I see. That's why you asked me if Sterling had been shot at the top of the stairs.
Right. I thought he might have been, after I heard what Miss Wakefield said.
Uh-huh.
Only the murderer would know a thing like that, Markham. It wasn't in the newspapers. Well, all I had to do then was find the motive, which we know now.
Yes.
And the career of the Wakefield sisters was at an end.
The career of these two women, Vance, and also the Sterling murder case.